Thank you all for being here at the second annual Emerging Scholars Symposium, which is an opportunity for Bayan and CTS students who are scholars as well to share their work and engage with our community. To get us started, I want to invite President Brad Braxton of CTS to come and say a word of welcome.
I give you a hug, brother. Great to see you. Good afternoon to the CTS and Bayan family, our friends, colleagues, and honored guests. It is with deep gratitude and joy that I welcome you to this sacred gathering, an interreligious symposium between Chicago Theological Seminary and our esteemed partner, Bayan Islamic Graduate School. This year, and especially this week, we mark 170 years of CTS's journey. A journey rooted in Christian theological education, later expanded through courageous Christian Jewish dialogue, and now blossoming into a vibrant partnership with another of the great global religious traditions, Islam. This is no small moment. It is a testament to what is possible when institutions dare to grow, when communities choose to listen, and when scholars commit not only to knowledge, but to wisdom. We are joined today by scholars who are already leaders, who are sharpening their gifts of research, reflection, writing, public presentation, and publication. We are the better for their presence. We are the better for their insight. We are the better for their wisdom. As an African-informed scholar and leader, I have long cherished the pursuit of knowledge, but I believe the ultimate goal is wisdom. Wisdom that ushers in more love. Wisdom that does not merely illuminate the mind, but expands the heart. Wisdom that does not simply analyze the world, but helps to heal it. So, let this gathering be more than a symposium. Let it be a sanctuary of shared learning, a wellspring of mutual respect, and a beacon of interreligious hope. May our efforts today increase justice. May mercy deepen. And may the world be filled with more knowledge, more wisdom, and yes, more love. My sense is that's a word that needs to be sounded more in the academy. So let me say it again. More love. Because when nothing else could help, love lifted me, and it lifted you too. You are welcome in this place. You are welcome in this work. You are welcome in this vision. Let us begin together. Amen.
Thank you, President Braxton, for such a warm and gracious welcome. I'm Rabbi Dr. Rachel Mikva. I'm a professor here of Jewish Studies and Senior Faculty Fellow for our Interreligious Institute. Along with Munir Sheikh, we're going to be your faculty hosts for the symposium and celebration of learning, and also of the ways that as we encounter and engage with people who orient around religion differently, of all sorts of life stances, that we deepen our understanding of our own positionality in the world as well. So Munir, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mikva. We're really excited to be able to continue this opportunity for intellectual exchange and camaraderie and mutual support. Hopefully, there will be opportunities where you will be presenting at various fora, symposium like this one, and other events. And we want to make sure that as a community, we can come out and support each other, whether it's in person or virtually. So thank you again for being here. As Dr. Mikva mentioned, we are going to engage with the two scholars that we have today presenting during this lunchtime. The first person who will be presenting is a doctoral student here at CTS, and her name is Nana Firman. She'll be presenting virtually to us. She's a dedicated environmental advocate and faith leader working at the intersection of sustainability, community resilience, and religious ecology. These are certainly areas or fields of inquiry that deserve more attention for many people, but certainly within the Muslim intellectual tradition. These are important areas that can be explored, and we're appreciative of Nana being one of the pioneers in this regard. She has developed urban community gardens in Southern California and inspired American Muslim communities towards eco-friendly living, earning her appointment to the Islamic Society of North America's Green Committee. With a background in disaster recovery and climate resilience, Nana previously directed post-tsunami recovery efforts in Indonesia with the World Wildlife Fund and collaborated with Muslim scholars on climate resilience planning. She served for nearly a decade as Muslim Outreach Director and Senior Ambassador for Green Faith, an international grassroots organization dedicated to environmental and climate action. Nana views ecological degradation as both an environmental crisis and profound moral issue, particularly emphasizing its disproportionate impact on vulnerable communities in the global South. Currently, as I mentioned, she's pursuing a PhD in religion and ecology at CTS. She focuses on reviving Islamic environmental practices for contemporary application, bridging ancient wisdom with modern sustainability challenges through collective action and environmental justice. She will be speaking to us today on the subject of Muslim women and climate justice in the global South. Phenomenal bringing together of very important components and giving us a lens to understand issues that affect us all. With that, I hand it over to Nana. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Professor Munir. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, please allow me to greet everyone here with peace. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. My name is Nana Firman, as mentioned, and I'm currently a doctoral student at CTS, and I'm also an alum of Bayan. And I would like to thank the committee for giving me this opportunity to share a theme which is near and dear to me at this second annual Emerging Scholars Symposium. And I'm joining today from Southern California, and I apologize that I cannot be with all of you in person. So now, please bear with me as I share my screen. Hold on. Okay. Wait.
This presentation will explore how Muslim women in the Global South, or formerly colonized nations, are both disproportionately impacted by climate change and at the same time as vital leaders in ecological resilience. This session hopes to bridge gender, religion, and ecology through Islamic ethical and socio-political lenses. So let's begin. Imagine your home flooded, your crops burned, you face drought and water shortage, your harvest failed, and your air poisoned. For many communities in the Global South, this isn't a future scenario. It is their present reality. Think about what climate change means to you and what you already know about it, because there is no simple definition for climate change. However, for the purpose of this session, we will focus on inequity and injustice as the consequences of climate crisis, with a brief historical background. The roots of climate crisis lie in colonial exploitation. Resources extracted from the Global South built the infrastructure of the Global North. This history continues today through trade, debt, and environmental dumping that exploit the same lands and people. The wealth accumulated in the Global North was extracted from the labor and landscape of the Global South.
So community in Indonesia, Kenya, Brazil experience daily environmental trauma. The Global South, despite barely contributing to the crisis, bears the ecological costs of industrial growth of the Global North, revealing climate change as a justice issue, not just a scientific one. And climate disaster intensify inequities, obviously, and extractive industries and weak governance worsen even local vulnerabilities. And as well, ecological degradation tied to the colonial and capitalist history. Muslim women in the Global South face the worst climate change due to pre-existing socio-economic inequities and cultural norms in regions such as Africa, South and Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. Elevating Muslim women's voices is crucial for effective climate action. Gender-responsive policies, equitable resource access, and amplifying women's leadership are essential to addressing this intertwined crisis. According to the UN Commission on the Status of Women, women make up more than 70% of people living in poverty. Women's vulnerability is not biological, but structural, rooted in unequal access to land, education, and decision-making. And the feminization of poverty compounds their exposure to climate impacts. So we can see that in many societies in the Global North, women depend heavily on natural resources for food, fuel, and water. Also, social roles make them first responders in any crisis. And then also, like, coping with ecological crisis falls on women, who holds most of the time household together. So women in the Global South address climate-related issues by focusing on holistic community engagement. On the historical roots, like the economic growth driven by profit and consumption often ignores women's labor and ecological wisdom. Sustainable futures requires rebalancing all three pillars, the economic, social, as well as environment. So as we can see that what is called progress or modern progress, often built on extractive industries and male-dominated economies. And economic models neglect social and environmental equity. And gender equity is the missing link on this for sustainable development. So when we see from the faith lens, especially like in this case, from Islam in ecological balance, I'm highlighting this verse in the Holy Quran, which is highlighting that corruption, which is fasad, has happened in the land and the sea, where human, the one who contributed on those destruction, on the corruptions. So then they may taste the consequences of their actions. So ecological imbalance actually mirrors the moral imbalance as well. And the key words as part of the Islamic ecological notes is the words, the terms such as stewardship or khalifa, and trust or amana, which is very central to the Islamic ethics on ecology, as well as about balance or mizan, and human accountability to creator and to creations, as we can reflect on this verse. And Muslim women are increasingly now prominent in climate justice activism in the Global South. It's just starting changing in the last 10 years, grounding their work in the Islamic teaching of ecological balance and advocating for vulnerable communities disproportionately affected by climate change. So the example includes leading local adaptation effort, such as in parts of North Africa, and also like using faith-based education to foster sustainability in many parts of the Muslim majority countries now, and spreading the grassroots movement against environmental destructions. So their activism highlights the intersection of gender, faith, and climate vulnerability, emphasizing structural transformation and empowering marginalized groups. In terms of leadership, even though as we see in the data of the UN women that in the last 20 years, the women in parliament has nearly doubled, but you know, like it's still like 22% of women in parliament, like if we go across the board globally. And this actually impacting how we handle climate issues, because leadership exclusion is systemic, both like, you know, like justice-oriented policy, it's not there. It's impossible for women perspective to be included because as I can show in the next picture, so this is COP 26 in Glasgow in 2021, which is very stark. This is the first time I was presenting about women in the Global South, because they're never represented in the global fora. And as we can see here, we can see like less than 10 women leaders. These are the world leaders that attended the COP26 in Glasgow in 2021, and we saw it's only like less than 10 women, and they're not even from the global south. So how can we actually bring the women voices or concern on this fora, in this space, whereas they're actually the one who bear the brunt of the consequences, as I mentioned earlier. So the persistence of gender imbalance is also affecting in global policy, global climate policy, and also like media rarely features women faith leaders or the global south activists in many of this discussion, whereas they're the one who's actually experiencing the worst. And so like in many cases, the negotiation just, like produce like weaker solution. And we actually, this year is going to be COP30 in Brazil. So that means already 30 years, the world leaders talking about climate change without very significant solution. And as we see everywhere, it's getting worse, not better. So why are we, talking about women participation? So maybe this claim may sound unnecessary if we live in Chicago or in the US, but in much of the global south, women's visibility in public life is still contested. And structural patriarchy, for example, or colonial legal remnants, and sometimes religious gatekeeping also constrain women participation, and making this call about, both contextual and also urgent. And in many Muslim majority countries, public participation is still, often restricted either by law, by culture, or even like the religious authority. So there's a barrier, like there's a patriarchal interpretation, or even like modesty norms, or just lack of mobility. Most women also have lack of mobility, and this is the according to Interparliamentary Union report in 2024. Women hold only 15% of seats in the MENA region parliaments. The MENA is Middle East and North Africa region. So it's still like very small number to have a women's voice in the parliament when decision making is taking place. So we can see here, women are disproportionately affected by climate change and are often excluded from decision-making. And women leadership and equal participation are critical for achieving climate justice. So what happens when women are absent from the public conversation? If women are not part of the decision-making, or climate policy neglects community needs, then such as water access, food security, caregiving burdens for like elderly, which is also experiencing the bear the brunt of this consequences of climate crisis. So this is underlining that women are indispensable to sustainability because they manage resources daily. So exclusion of them is going to distort policy and priorities and resources distribution. And also, if they're absent, then ecological and local knowledge is also not heard, or often could disappear. And undermining this resilience and innovation is not, I think this is like undermining if we have absence of women in the space. So centering Muslim women voices in climate justice is very important. And after understanding why women are excluded, we can now move toward recognizing agency. Muslim women's eco-activism reframes public life, integrating spirituality with ecological responsibility. So we like shifting the empowerment to recognition, and also as faith activism, like in here, it's equal to moral legitimacy and community trust. So we need both. And also like many women now in the global south already involved in the grassroots eco initiatives. And in terms of traditional and indigenous wisdom, like many women in the global south also hold this dearly because they are part of the community and they're always there taking care of the community. So the traditional system guided by, by their community and by their faith, balance the ecological and gender. So reviving this knowledge will restore relational ethics lost in the modern industrial complex modernity, that sometimes we forget about our own indigenous wisdoms. So traditional communities embedded conservations in culture. So they have this, how they actually preserve their ecosystems. And then also gender spiritual roles, sustain ethics. And then modern sustainability must learn from indigenous practices as well. So it's like, now it's getting this conversation, how to learn, how to include the indigenous knowledge in terms of caring for the environment or managing the environment. So it's not just merely scientific, but also we need wisdoms. And many women in this part of the world carry that with them. So they are the agents of change. So how do we frame this in the environmental care as a devotion, linking the sacred with the sustainability? So their work translates spiritual conviction into social reform. So this intersection between faith and action in terms of practice of caring for the environment is also caring for their communities. And this is embedded dearly within their spirituality of the women in this part of the world. So we started to see a lot of these women involved in this issue as activists, because they see activists is not just action, but it's part of ibadah or worship, and also it's service to the community. And also like their motivation is hope, care, and also it's part of Tawheed. As Muslims, it's about the God oneness of God unity. And now there's like a lot of women in the global south, even like here in North America, started to kind of like be the trailblazer of this movement. And I just put like some of the names that I don't have space to put all of them, but these are some of the names. And one of them is Kori Majid, which is who is the Bayan alum also. So these women started to engage with their communities on different levels, not just like local or regional or national, but they also like involved in the global platform. So it is important for Muslim women leadership in the climate action, because investing in women as a change agent and first responders to climate crisis is always going to benefit a larger society. Oops, okay. So back in COP 26, this is like when WWF actually made this this statement that faith reorients humanity to live in harmony with nature. So this is a very stark statement, because when I was working in WWF, we were very how should I say it? It's like very purely science. Very hard for me to bring faith. I had to fight with my boss all the time if I wanted to bring faith on my work. But now there's a change, like shifting also in this kind of like big green groups, that they realize that if we want to work with the community, we need to bring faith, because 84% of humanities in this world identifies themselves with a religion, according to Pew Research, and that's 2012, I think, like report. So because also like faith can mobilize more power for sustainability, and as well as these ethical principles such as love, as Dr. Braxton mentioned, moderation and service. Moderation, that's also the highlights, because we don't want to having this excessive, that is what happened like as the consequences of climate change, because of the excessive economic system, as well as lifestyle in terms of individual or community. And of course, like, I will bring this about hadith, like, in the Islamic tradition, there's many hadith and many verses in the Holy Quran related to nature and ecology. But I just love this one, this hadith about if you plant a tree and any creatures benefit or eat from it, then it's considered charity. So this everyday ecological acts is a spiritual merit. And then care for creation is the expression of gratitude. And women transmit values also to next generation. So when women are it's part of this, and they're like, leading the change, then the next generation will also benefit from that. So how do we talk about these three things about social, economic, and environment? Building sustainability without addressing gender is a self-defeating, and equity must be central and not peripheral to the environmental agendas or the climate actions. So economic, social, and environmental are all interdependent, and also like gender equity. If we're missing in all these three issues, these three pillars, then we have problems. So we need to make sure that gender equity is included in this each pillars. And because if we neglect social and gender factors, it's going to lead to growth that is just segmental, not not holistic. So we need to emphasize that these three pillars, social, economic, and environment, always have a gender equity included on that. And the easiest practice that I've seen thus far is about environmental consciousness and consumption, because in many in this region, women are the one who's as the one that make decision in terms of consumption, like household consumption. So when they're included on this and they can make the better decision, then we will have a change significantly within the community. And because that shaped the sustainability, but then they're not really involved, getting involved in the green economy, like employment or workforce, so it's the green economy, like workforce, are still a lot of male dominated, employment. So, so this is like one of the thing that we want to kind of also pursue and kind of push to have like women included in the green economic employment system, because beyond the consumption, we also want women to be ownership and leadership, to have leadership, because like I said, they're the one who's like make decision in terms of consumption. And also if they understand sustainable products, then it's even better, because then they can make a better decision. And again, like, underrepresented in the green jobs or green economy sectors. So and then another thing that I found out from this research is women typically reinvest up to 50% or more of their earnings to their own community compared to men, which is, like, this is a very significant, because they always like in this society, women are the one who always concerned about what is the future for their children. So it's like they're always concerned about the community. But then we have challenge, of course, the systemic and structural challenge, which is, like the structural injustice, not nature, keep women vulnerable. Because of that, it's systemic. And then climate solution must dismantle this patriarchal and neo-colonial system that sustain ecological harm. So we need to kind of shifting the system also. So gender, like gender stereotypes and lack of land ownership, for example, for women, has to be dealt with. And then exploitation by corporation, be it exploitation to the nature as well as to the human. And of course, this colonial legacy is still perpetuate inequality, like, in across the board. And I'm almost done here. So this is the intersectionality that, like, that I wanted to explore more about gender, faith, and justice. And we started this, and then I'm also a practitioner of this, not just studying, because I'm involved of a lot of initiatives. So this is still a challenge, but it's getting better, like compared to 10 years ago. So it's getting better, because like we make sure that women are always there, has a the representative and also voices heard, because they are, especially those who are from the one who's bear the brunt, like the victims, like, like the one who actually bear the brunt of the consequences of climate crisis. So so finally, like, of course, policy, and that we need to change this, because then we need the policy reform to meet grassroots energy, because the grassroots is like brewing, like a lot of like a movement in the ground, and also empowering women through education and green, like such as green jobs, will ensure sustainable transformation.
Thank you so much, Nana.
Yeah.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you. Oh, this is just the last one. So we need
Nana, we really need to move on.
Oh, all right. Okay, dokie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation, both in terms of what you had to say, but also in terms of the slides that you put together. Really phenomenal effort that we appreciate. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next speaker and have a chance to hear some more about a topic that's within the similar theme. I'll pass it off to Dr. Mikva to do the introduction.
So, welcome again. Reverend Sarah Bayan, who's our next speaker, is the founder and executive director of animal chaplaincy training at Compassion Consortium. That's a non-sectarian center that supports animal advocates, interspecies activists, and animal care professionals. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Human Ecology from Michigan State University and a Master of Arts in Religious Studies from CTS. And she serves as a delegate to the Oxford Center for Animal Ethics. So in 2026, she will complete both a Master of Science in Anthrozoology at Canisius University and a Doctor of Ministry in Chaplaincy here at CTS. So, let's be ambitious and do multiple degrees all at once. So her current research focuses on addressing moral distress and moral injury in animal-centered professions through trauma-informed spiritual and emotional care. She's a passionate speaker and teacher and writer, and she's authored an award-winning book called Sacred Send-Offs, an animal chaplain's advice for surviving animal loss, making life meaningful and healing the planet. So we welcome Sarah, and we're very excited to learn with you. And the title of your talk, let's get this right. I don't have it. Help.
That's okay. I'll give it.
You give it.
Animality and chaplaincy.
That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Mikva. Can you folks hear me, or do I need to hold this? Yeah, I need to hold this. All right, we're going to see how well I do with one hand on a microphone and one hand on a mouse. That would be a computer mouse, not a live one. Just for anyone who's had a question about that based on the content of my presentation. Hello, I'm Sarah Bayan. I'm delighted to be part of this Emerging Scholars Symposium. I've spent a lot of time at CTS, and this means a lot to me. Today, I'll highlight my doctoral research, which maps the emergence of animality in chaplaincy, an expansion of spiritual care to include other than human beings, so everyone else, as well as those who care for them, protect them, and companion them. Most of you here probably know what chaplaincy means. Chaplains serve in hospitals and prisons, universities, the military, corporations, and increasingly in social justice movements. Chaplains are professionals who enter into religious, spiritual, secular, or pluralistic spaces, companioning individuals and communities through moments of transition, of suffering, and of awe. They provide a non-judgmental and compassionate presence without proselytizing. Yet, despite the many, many contexts, there are chaplains even at NASCAR, chaplaincy remains highly anthropocentric, humans helping humans. So today I want to ask us, if chaplaincy responds to suffering and it helps create connections, then what happens when we extend it across species lines, beyond the human animal? I invite you to ponder these two questions on the screen as we consider the presence of animality in chaplaincy. First, do moral emotions, cultural traditions, spirituality, and grief cross species lines? What do you think? And who deserves spiritual care? Let's try the first question. From chimpanzees who console the distressed, bonobos who share food, and capuchins who reject inequitable payment for tasks, look that one up on YouTube, And many, many more instances than I have time to share with you, but I could spend about an hour sharing them with you. Plentiful research observes that a significant number of other species display the capacity for these things, for empathy, for understanding fairness, for expressing morality, for engaging in cooperation and conflict resolution. So I suggest that if animals act on moral emotions, then they are not merely objects of our use or our consumption or for our ethical consideration, but also participants in multi-species ethical reasoning. So this recognition destabilizes anthropocentric theologies, doesn't it, a little bit, and calls for spiritual care providers, like chaplains, to recognize that moral behavior is not uniquely human, and moral communities are interspecies. Animals have rich social lives that include what biologists and anthrozoologists acknowledge as cultural traditions. Culture is not just human. From whales' inherited songs to elephants' matriarchal memories, we find many, many behaviors and rituals that are passed down by generation. Okay, what about spiritual experiences? A growing number of primatologists, behavioral scientists, and theologians as well propose that animals too may possess the capacity for spiritual experience. These are the scientists alongside the theologians. Although defining spirituality and religion, even among human beings, remains very, very, very complex, the diversity of perspectives that are emerging about animal spirituality reflect a rising interest in this topic. The discourse creates an important animal turn within theology and religious studies. Take a class with Ken Stone. Another growing area of scholarly literature is the expression of grief by members of other species. Has anyone experienced this in their home? For example, when a dog lingers by the room of a deceased human, or when elephants touch the bones of their dead over and over, traveling miles to return to them. These moments challenge the idea that grief is solely a human experience, and it requires us to consider that loss and bereavement care we might need to think about other than human experiences. The uniqueness of grief cultures and species is endlessly fascinating. Western scrub jays, they've been observed in ritualization after death. Some behaviorists even say that they do funerary rites. In many socially complex species, individuals often maintain contact with the corpse. They may alter their daily routines after the loss of a family member or conspecific. They may even hold group vigils. These behaviors are biologically costly, and they're purposeless if an animal doesn't value another animal that they have lost. For another instance, this meta-analysis of 409 cases observing 50 different species of primates revealed that many mothers will carry their dead infants from hours to months. Let me give you one more. The phenomenon of grief is present not only in wildlife or in our domesticated animal companions, which many people might call pets, but in captive and exploited animals as well. For example, in one study published in Applied Animal Behavior Science, cows used to make dairy products showed elevated heart rates, intense vocalizing, and searching behavior after the permanent removal of their calves so that they could make milk for humans. The playback test confirmed that cows recognize their calves' calls during the separation. Grief during parent-offspring separation or the disruption of animal families by humans has been documented in many, many species. So, if empathy and moral regard and spirituality and grief are relational experiences, then they need not be confined to humans. Are you buying it? Across species, we see evidence of animals soothing each other, from elephants that comfort each other, a distressed herd member, to even rats and chimpanzees who will groom their companions who are in pain. Animals sometimes even cross species lines to help the member of another species. Your Instagram is probably full of this. Domestic and sanctuary animals often seek and respond to human assurance. Okay, you've probably seen that in your homes, if you've ever been to a farmed animal sanctuary. Their heart rates and their cortisol levels will drop when they receive calm human touch. So recognizing the shared capacity that animals are not only recipients of compassionate care, but could they also be participants in care? Let's move to the second question. Who deserves spiritual care? Humans? Or can we go a little wider? Interspecies chaplaincy is, in its most inclusive expression, acknowledging these relational aspects and suggest that all species are deserving of care. I believe Roxy is putting this link to this article from Religion News Service about our work in the chat. If not, there's a link there. Grab your phone. So, intersecting insights from the fields of theologians that focus on animal theology, ecofeminist, decolonial, and liberation perspectives can make the case for interspecies care even stronger. I could use another half hour for this slide, but we'll move on. So within my research, I advanced two foundational concepts for this field. First, when we look across world religions, we find vast teachings about animals, their value, their moral status, and even whether they possess souls. Some traditions emphasize stewardship, others kinship, others sacred reciprocity, some dominion. Every tradition, however, includes some sort of articulation of creaturely compassion, creaturely connection, and ethical guidance about how humans should treat other beings. Second, interspecies chaplaincy does not try to resolve the doctrinal differences in what I just said in point number one. We don't try to resolve what religions think about the value of animals. Instead, very importantly, we transcend the belief debates by focusing on embodied care. Chaplains show up where suffering occurs regardless of the theological beliefs of the people we show up for. And perhaps I might say, the spiritual beliefs of the animals we show up for too. So we can be less concerned about what someone believes about animals, although sometimes I am concerned in the back of my head. But we can be more concerned about how we respond when any creature, human or other than human, is in distress. This approach mirrors what people chaplains show up for too in hospitals, in prisons, in universities, in social justice movements, the military, all sorts of other contexts. So applied beyond the human, chaplaincy becomes a bridge where compassion is the doctrine and presence is the praxis. Admittedly, this can be very messy. Chaplaincy education, peer support, supervision help interspecies chaplaincies navigate moments of theological or ethical tension within practitioners, and there are many. Okay, so what about the research I'm doing here? Because the field of animal chaplaincy has yet to be mapped, we're emerging, we have not been mapped yet, my research project takes a closer look at what interspecies chaplaincy looks like in practice, how it's taught, how it's funded, how it's lived by those who are already out there doing the work. By listening to educators and practitioners, and by observing the challenges of my own animal chaplaincy students, I'm mapping not just what exists, but where the most dynamic and the most moving expressions of the work are happening. The emerging patterns, the shared tensions, and creative practices so that our field can grow sustainably. I've already found that interspecies chaplaincy can emerge or can be conceived in anywhere humans and animals interact. We have a lot of contexts we can be in. From traditional pet loss support, which might have been the first thing you thought when you heard the word animal chaplain, to veterinary clinics, to animal sanctuary care, to wildlife rescue, to zoos, to laboratories, and even to slaughterhouses. Chaplaincy can arise wherever suffering and connection coexist. In moments that are positive, that are neutral, or that are negative. Let's look at just a few highlights before I wrap up. Majority of humans in the US now share daily life with an animal companion, about 70%, 71%, one of the new studies. It's 57% worldwide. Studies show that these relationships can enhance physical health, reduce loneliness, nurture spiritual connection. We have plenty of research on that. But access to that kind of relationship and to the care it requires is not equally distributed. Veterinary deserts, breed-specific bias, breed-specific bans, housing policies, don't get me started, often exclude people in low income, in rural, in aging, or in racially marginalized communities. When human-animal bonds are broken through illness or through eviction of the place that you live or death, that grief that follows is acute. It's often dismissed, it's minimized, it is invalidated because that being is not human. We call this disenfranchised grief. It's pain that is not publicly or socially validated. And recognizing and tending to that kind of loss is a vital part of interspecies chaplaincy. Everywhere outside your home, where humans and animals meet within vocational contexts, people can carry heavy, heavy, heavy moral burdens. Moral stress and distress arise when people must make decisions about care, about life, about death, about euthanasia that violate their personal or professional values. Over time, this constant exposure to suffering and ethical ambiguity can lead to burnout and even moral injury. Veterinary medicine is one of the most clearest indicators, with suicide rates several times higher than the general population. Yeah. But this distress is not limited to veterinarians. Shelter staff, animal control officers, sanctuary workers, wildlife rehabilitators, animal activists describe cumulative grief, compassion fatigue, moral disgrace, organizational conflict. In my research, I refer to these as animal-centric vocations, defining them as personal and professional callings to interspecies care. To interspecies care practices that intentionally reorient moral, spiritual, and practical attention toward the lived experience of other species. Unlike the anthropocentric frameworks that we're used to, which position animals as secondary to human needs or for animal needs, animal-centric vocations recognize animals as subjects within shared moral and spiritual communities. By using this term, vocation rather than profession, I'm establishing that professions, volunteer work, and emerging ways of engaging in activities that integrate multi-species ethics, spirituality, and relational care. Strains to humans and animal well-being appear in nearly every vocation that centers animals and habitats. Whether it's clinical, it's protection, it's care-specific work. So in short, wherever humans are charged with caring for or controlling animals, emotional, ethical, and spiritual strain are inherently going to follow. These realities reveal why chaplaincy has a critical role to play. Animal chaplains can hold space for compassionate listening, validating the experiences, and tending to unavoidable loss through rituals. One more. Finally, it would not be a stretch to suggest that our consumption, our industry, our economics, our theology shape the well-being of nearly every other creature on Earth. Therefore, eco-anxiety and ecological grief and solastalgia have cross-species impacts. Recognizing the shared vulnerability reframes chaplaincy as a ministry of multi-species, ecological, and social justice. Environmental degradation, climate collapse, animal exploitation fall hardest on communities who are already marginalized. Nana's presentation gave us great detail on that. By race, by class, and by colonial history. And on the animals who share those environments alongside those people. Further, animals who are viewed as having a commercial value to humans, will likely find themselves receiving most of the suffering, as opposed to those who are valued for companionship in our homes. Many inclusive animal chaplains recognize this grief as sacred rather than sentimental or radical or catastrophizing. There are a few challenges for our field, as you might suggest or be aware of. Let me give you 4. First, the field is still defining itself. Pet chaplain, veterinary chaplain, animal chaplain, interspecies chaplain, and animal-assisted chaplaincy, and there are actually a few chaplains who are dogs. There are. Think about animal-assisted therapy. We have a lot of research that says your connection with animals matters. The language we use is evolving organically, which invites creativity, also creates confusion, and just created a little laughter. These emerging terms carry ethical tensions. For instance, many early entrants into pet chaplaincy focus primarily on supporting people with the loss of animal companions. While my research is still in process, initial findings suggest that pet chaplains often do not engage in the more inclusive forms of chaplaincy that I've been talking to you about. Similarly, veterinary chaplains may not always be aware of the moral or emotional complexities faced by those working in other contexts, such as in farmed animal sanctuaries or advocacy roles. On the other hand, they may be really acutely aware of the challenges within veterinary contexts, like the veterinary suicide rates I just mentioned. One goal of my research is to help clarify and to stabilize this nomenclature, reducing confusion and identifying the educational frameworks that are needed to prepare chaplains for effective, context-specific care that takes into the consideration the needs of humans and other species. Because the field is new, various types of interspecies chaplaincy are often questioned as real chaplaincy. Did anyone have that thought walking into this presentation today? There's little published literature And central accrediting bodies are slow to recognize our subfield. It's happening, but slow to recognize. Both practitioners and potential clients have varied expectations about credentials. And these challenges mirror the early and actually the ongoing debates in hospital chaplaincy about the requirements for professionalization. A lot going on right now in ACPE. Part of my research is to map the field's contours so that future programs can establish increased credibility. Even before introducing these ideas of chaplaincy, many people misunderstanding what a chaplain is. Any chaplains in here who have people who do not understand what you do? Yeah, we got some, yeah. So we face the same challenges that they do. Also, dismissals by other professionals. So people chaplains who dismiss animal chaplains can be painful for us. Painful. The invalidation, the critiques, they echo deep cultural hierarchies about animal life and those who advocate for it. We are trivialized and even mocked. Speciesism and carnism dictate for a lot of people the purposes of animal lives, what animals are for. They're products for consumption. They're not subjects with their own lives and needs and preferences and all the things I told you about early on. And finally, the myth of compassion, scarcity, as I call it, that compassion needs to be rationed, that for some reason we need to take care of human issues first before we address animal issues, rather than understand that they are entangled and life is interdependent. Naming these dynamics is itself a pastoral act. It helps interspecies stand firm in their callings, which for many come from a divine source. Finally, interspecies chaplains operate within complex religious and secular spaces. Many religious adherents and clergy question the theological basis for care. Why should you be caring about animals? Some scientists distrust religious language. You ever come across that? A trauma-informed and pluralistic approach, as modeled by many interspecies chaplains in veterinary and activist settings, for example, helps bridge that gap. And that's why I'm doing a degree at a seminary and a science-based school at the same time for this research. So looking ahead, the next phase of my research uses a mixed methods approach. I'm combining qualitative and quantitative surveys. I am collecting survey responses from chaplains and from chaplaincy educators to help me more fully understand what's going on and to map our field for the first time. That data is going to be deepened through qualitative interviews and some more additional field work. My God, I go to a lot of conferences, documenting the lived experiences, the ethical challenges, and the innovative models of care that are emerging. Together, these findings will help shape training curricula. They'll clarify our ethical frameworks and strengthen the foundations for a sustainable and evidence-based field of interspecies chaplaincy. Conclusion. The world needs interspecies chaplaincy because suffering and meaning-making are not uniquely human experiences. Across sanctuaries and clinics and homes and habitats, people and animals are navigating loss, love, and moral tension together. Interspecies chaplaincy meets these moments with a non-judgmental and supportive process that can facilitate ethical discernment and promote healing when it is needed. My research aims to give this emerging field clearer language, stronger ethical foundations, and practical tools so that care can extend compassionately and skillfully across species lines. Generous thank you to Chicago Theological Seminary, to my advisor, Ken Stone, to my collaborators, to my community members for supporting this boundary crossing research, as well as to all the interspecies chaplains and chaplaincy educations who I've already talked to and who will share their experiences with me in the future. I believe that someone has also put a chat to my 2022 book, Sacred Send-Offs, for people who are interested in going a little deeper. If you have questions about the cited references in this presentation or to receive notifications of my emerging findings, email me, sarah.bowen@ctschicago.edu. I dedicate the merit of this presentation to the alleviation of suffering for all beings, seen and unseen, in all habitats on this planet. Again, thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you very much, Sarah. We are delighted to have heard to hear about the work that both of you are doing. We have about 9 minutes left for questions, which is less than we had hoped for, but I invite questions either from the folks in the room or the folks online for either of our speakers. And while you're thinking of your question, I will start off with one for each of you and invite Sarah, while you're at the mic there, to go first, and then Nana to share a bright spot, right? You're both talking about work that is developing and things are changing and there are projects afoot. Can you share one bright spot of a really exciting project and why you think it's sort of hitting the right marks?
I would say for me, I think it's the interest that people have in this after I explain what's going on. We have found, we are actually at the Animal Chaplaincy Training Program, we are getting between 55 and 65 new students who want to become interspecies chaplains every year. For considering spiritual and religious education, as well as education in general and some of the trends that we see, that is a big bright spot for me. People want to be involved in this work. People want to learn how to assist animals, to assist habitats, to assist people. And that keeps me going. So as long as they keep showing up, Dr. Mikva, I'm feeling a little bright.
Thanks. Nana?
Thank you. Well, yes, for me, it's like I've seen a lot of the young people, like the young Muslim women, are involved in this issue now. Like they see, like not just like, involved in climate issue or environmental issue, but they actually bring their own faith tradition, and it's like very like spiritual calling almost. When I started like 20 years ago, about or so, I was kind of lonely because there's nobody's there. And then I was in Indonesia, so in the global south, it was lonely. And then I moved here to the US, was still like not that many, but in the last, especially the last 5-6 years, I've seen like striving a lot of the young people. And yes, I mean, like, like these things is evolving now. And even like the women in like, marginalized communities, for example, when I went to like several countries in the global south, they're so eager to learn something and to be involved because they see that, like that they have the roles in changing what's happening at the moment.
Thank you both. I was actually hoping to name a project, but that's all right. I want to go on to other people's questions. In the room, is there anybody who has a question?
We've got one here, Dr. Mikva. It's coming on over.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, hi, I'm Zachary Johnigan. I'm a visiting public policy student from the Harris School of Public Policy. And I was invited to come here to the symposium to hear all the exciting things that are going on at the Chicago Theological Seminary. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to listen to both the speakers. There was a lot of different points that I wanted to ask about, but I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. I came in a little bit late in the middle of the first presentation, so I didn't catch the presenter's name, but it was about the various different policy issues that women are having in the work field, in the workplace. And you ended it with a point that we need to be training women for green policy jobs. I may be misquoting you there, but I wanted to know, how can we go about implementing some of that stuff? And can you expand just a little bit on that? How could we be training women for jobs in the green space?
Should I answer it right away?
Please.
Sorry. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your question. Yes, this is like what we are actually need to be involved with, because I've been like, like part of my training is about green economy. But then like, when we implement it, it's like there's still like male dominated like, like kind of workforce in terms of like green jobs or green employments. Then we need to like bring women also like in this issue, because what I highlighted in my presentation, that when women are involved in this kind of like changing, like I call it as a change, like transforming society, they're also they like by nature like in the global south especially, they're very embedded in their communities. So when they have like skills, like kind of like recruit women also, like because the recruitment is mostly like still like majority men. So like if we recruit women also, then they can also engage with their communities, share with their communities, and that's like when we change the society like from within. So like like I guess like I don't know like I don't know if there's like a quota on that, but like women are not being engaged in terms of involved in the like the green jobs or the green like employment opportunities.
Yeah, that makes sense. So changing the culture around it, you would say, is more the avenue that we need to be exploring.
Yes.
Alongside active recruitment.
Well, that's at least one question that I had. I wanted to turn it over to others who may have questions as well. But thank you both for your presentations.
Thanks for joining us. Any questions from our online participants? Doesn't
We
look,
must have explained ourselves quite well, Nana.
that's it.
Ah.
That's
Actually,
it.
I have a question for Sarah, but
All right, go ahead. Ask, please do.
So Sarah, well, just happened, Sarah and we were on the same class in summer, but we didn't get a chance to discuss a lot of things. Even, I mean, like we saw it in the beginning, like we have something in common that we can discuss. So like in your experience, have you engaged with like conservation organization, for example? Like we have like species, I was involved before with species conservations. Like now one of my sisters is actually on the like tuna conservations, like that's her job, like tuna conservation. So like what is your, have you have any dialogue or engagement with these groups that is conservationists, especially?
Yeah, we have. And I think what's really interesting, for example, we go to a lot of conferences, conservation conferences, humane world for animals conferences, all sorts of different things around these, those many, many areas that I showed you where animal chaplains can be of service. And what we do is we get a booth on the trade show floor. And we fill it with information about us, but we fill it with care. So what we start to do is people will come in and they'll say, hey, what are y'all doing? What is this chaplaincy thing? And we'll explain a little bit about it and say we provide emotional and spiritual care for the folks who are in these ethical dilemmas and in these quandaries. And what is really amazing is, we'll have conservationists, we'll have animal control officers, people who are in all of these different fields. And they will walk into the booth and they will just erupt into tears. And what they will do is say, I am holding so much. And when I try to talk to my family about it or my friends, they say, enough, I've had enough. I've had enough. I can't hear about these horrors anymore, right? I can't hear about them. Now with conservationists in particular, it's the idea that, you often have to cull, right, a species in order to have another species live. We talk about invasive species. I could debate that word for a while. But, these ideas of making decisions about life and death for large populations of animals. And conservationists are holding that. So they come in, and it usually happens, Nana, through a personal experience first of receiving care. And then after that, they say, well, here's my business card. Could we talk? And then we start to talk about how we can help organizations by coming in and offering, days of service, helping people with moral resilience, helping them understand, self-care is often a negative word for folks involved in this work because they're like, stop telling me I need self-care, right? So how can we help you with that? So yes, absolutely. And I would like to be working more with the conservationists. One of the areas that we're seeing that is particularly difficult are animal control officers. The things these people see, the shared human and animal suffering in homes that are dealing with violence, with poverty, with hoarding, with fighting rings, with some things I don't want to say aloud right now, but you just use your imagination. All of those things, and they're holding that, and they don't have a lot of care. And what's interesting is animal control officers come off of the, come off of the police force. So we already have a space of being able to say, hey, you have chaplains for your other police folks. How about for you guys? Can we talk to you about that? So I think that the potential and the possibility, just Nana, you and I are loquacious, so we could keep going on like this forever. But I think that the potential and the possibility for what I'm talking about and for what you're talking about, I appreciate that Chicago Theological gave us this time because I think it is underspoken about, it is underutilized, and it's critically important, the work you're doing and the work I'm doing. So thank you for the question. Yeah, deeply
Thank you
respectful.
both so much. We are out of time. Munir, do you want to close us out?
Thank you all for some remarkable presentations. I think you really did an excellent job, both of you, of modeling what it is like to develop your ideas and your interests and pursue it with an academic rigor, but also a very compassion-centered approach. And we have a lot to learn, not only from the content that you provided, but in terms of how you delivered it and framed it so that we can be better prepared for the work that we are respectively doing. And I hope that the students who had an opportunity to listen today were inspired to pursue their own interests and cultivate their capacities to emerge as scholars. And we'll continue to offer fora like this to get the chance to benefit from your wisdom and your knowledge. Thank you, Dr. Braxton. Thank you, Dr. Mikva, and all the faculty that are here this week from Bayan, as well as the CTS faculty. And we look forward to staying in conversation with you all. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you all.